Yeah, absolutely. And when you say a business card, so think of the old days, I just hand you a card. Like, what does that mean, right? So I see a name and a card, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
But the book is the calling card. Now, instead of just having a little card, I've actually got everything that you do. So I can understand much better. That it takes away, like the expression says that nobody likes to be sold, everybody likes to buy. It's really true.
Are you tired of working more for less profits in your home service business? What if I could show you $100,000 in hidden annual profits in your business in less than 3 minutes? Would you be interested? And not only show you where, but how to create that 100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend guaranteed. Just go to sharpenthespearcoaching.com to see how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespearcoaching.com. Do it now.
All right, here we are on the Sharpen the Spear podcast with another incredible guest, my buddy Nick, the Doctor of Digital. I like that title, Mick. I like that. I'm glad you came up with that. That's cool.
I'll keep it then.
But, we're going to talk I recommend it, okay? You have my blessing on that. But let's, we're going to talk today about writing books for your business, creating you as an authority, a lot of great things that Mick's going to get into because it's what he does. But as I always do in the beginning here, no one knows Mick better than Mick. So Mick, give us a little backstory, bring us up to speed where you're at, where you're coming from, and then we'll get into the mix.
All right. So, I was born in a log cabin on the banks of the Mississippi. No, I'm just kidding. So I was born in New Jersey to a working class family. Excuse me. And I was also a guy that I like to point out that nobody I knew went to college. I did have a half uncle that went to college, but I was growing up in an era where people said you didn't always go to college. So I was considered not college material. So I like to say that because as a working class family, it's not something I was thinking of. But as I got a little bit older and I got interested, I said, I guess I'm pretty good at this book stuff. And, I like to take classes and all those things. So I actually ended up in education of all things. And then, 3 advanced degrees, PhD, and 9 certificates and all those kinds of things. But there it is for all those teachers who missed out, all the people who didn't see the potential I had. So I tell people I'm a recovering academic because I had been in academic work for a long time and as an executive academic, had some leadership positions, and I transitioned. So I think this is what I think we really want to talk about in terms of entrepreneurship. What do you do when you're a recovering academic? So everybody knows what academic are about, publish or perish. And I realized, I have some skills, and that has to do with the publishing and how to take a long project, such as a book, and put it into a form that really represents a person. And so I've been fortunate to do that. A couple books out. I'm working on some other projects, and I help people as a book coach.
Oh, that's awesome. I know the power of a book. I have a best-selling book. I think everyone should have a book. I know, what are the numbers? 85% of Americans want to write a book, 2% do.
There you go.
Something like
very
that, right?
close. That's right. And so I'm that person in the gap.
That's right. So I'm a big fan of being in the 2%, okay? And you should be too. If you're listening to this, you should be that fan. You should become one of those people because it's always a better place. Where the herd is, I'm not. So I always want to be in that other place. So let's talk about, Mick, let's kind of get into the beginning of the process. So let's say, I'll give you a scenario. I'm a business owner. I do construction.
Mm-hmm.
That's easy. Okay. I want to write a book though. Why I want to write a book, I don't know. I think I have a story. I've been doing this a long time. I'm really good at what I do. But why should I write a book? Why don't we start there?
Sure. And it's the answer is to be an authority and a spokesperson for that. So I don't know how to manufacture widgets, right? But I sure would like to know somebody who has been in the business manufacturing widgets for the last 30 or 40 years. And, you find out you're the expert. And so don't hide your light under a bushel. Tell people, what is it like to be a manufacturer of widgets? What is it like to be the best construction person? What is it like to be the best plumber? What is it best, whatever people would like to tap into your knowledge. And after you've accumulated all of these things, why hide that? And in fact, you become the authority. So a lot of people would say after 20 or 30 years of being in a business, they would be the go-to person. And so in terms of consulting or in terms of then helping others, that's where the book comes in. So it's credibility, it's authority. And you say yourself, of course, when you're a best-selling author, it's like, okay, you're the guy then, because you know your particular niche. And I go back to when I wrote my dissertation. I said, okay, I asked when I write a dissertation, the first real book that you ever write as an academic, I said, how long does it have to be? And they told me it's like, okay, be 227 pages, and that would qualify. So guess how long my dissertation is? It's 227 pages. I got it out. That's the whole thing to get it done. So my point is always, if you're the person who has an idea, and I can tell you within 5 seconds, give me the elevator pitch, and I can tell you, is that going to sell or not? And what happens is, if you're in a business, people don't know your business as well as you do, and you become that instant credible authority in that particular niche.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I'll play the other side, right? So I'm going to say, well, but who really cares, right? And then I say, I'm just a guy who does stuff, right? So how do we make that interesting? Like, why would someone want to read about stuff that I did? I'm great at sweat and pipe. I build this, I do this, right? So what's that process like?
Well, it's a story, right? So people are interested in a story, and I'll give you an example. So when I lived in Pennsylvania, I was the chair of the Historical Commission because I have a background in history. And I talked to this one guy who was on the commission, too. He's a really interesting guy. He's really good. He was known as the landscaper in the business. Right? Here's a great example of a business. I don't know anything about landscaping. I mean, I can appreciate, it's nice lawn and nice bushes and everything else. So I asked him, why did you become a landscaper? I mean, of all the things that you could have done. And he said, well, he was a kid and he was fascinated by it, had a mentor who said, this is how you become like the best landscaper in that area. So he had a passion as a child. And I go, well, that's a really interesting story. So I think you can apply that to anyone. Why did you become an electrician? Why did you become a plumber? Why are you in construction? What's the story? Because people are interested in stories, and that's your expertise, because you're able to take a passion and then become the best in your business and grow it and scale it, but telling a story. So, again, there's a guy that I talked to in the back east. He said he loved high school so much that he spent 5 years there. What does that mean? Well, instead of being there for 4 years, he flunked. But he became an electrician, and what he pointed out was absolutely true. He said it's harder to become, this was in the Philadelphia area, it's harder to become an electrician in Philadelphia than it is to get admitted into Harvard. I go, that's a mind-blowing statistic. So if you're a younger person and growing up in America, be a plumber, be an electrician, be a mechanic, but do the best that you possibly can and be the best in your business, and you're going to succeed in life.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Yeah, I in my book, I did the same thing. I weave the story. And people, there's all this, I'm going to use the broad term of marketing, right? A lot of people market and they have a product or a service or something like that. But when you incorporate a story, that's what grabs people. And it does it in a different way than people think. They don't understand, like, people will follow a story. They will go through it. They want to know, I began here. I started with failure, and then I went from, then I got to this, and I failed again. I went to this. And they want to see that. They want to understand that journey, because I think you're doing two things. Not only are you showing your own perseverance and how to get through it, but you're showing them the path, too, and they understand what might come and what not come. So as you build your authority inside this story, because you're giving these great nuggets, right, and these tips and tricks and things like that, and telling that journey, is really powerful. And
yeah.
I also find this, and you probably do too, Mick, if I just hold it up, if I hold up my book, okay, I'm an author, you don't even have to read it. My name is on it, it's there,
That's
it
right.
says best-selling up here, there you go, right? So I think people don't understand the power of it. Because they're like, you say authority building, but there's so much power to having that, right?
Absolutely. There's no question. And that's the thing. It's quite a thrill, too. I mean, you experience that when you see your name on a book that you wrote. It's like, wow, that's me. I actually did something. It's something tangible. So great. It's instant credibility because a book gives that to you immediately. So if you're in whatever field, construction, electrician, what have you, the fact that somebody has produced a book from those industries, rather than going through this blah, 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 this is the best business, the best service, this, that. No, you got a book and you point out something that's really critical. We learn this in education all the time. Kids want to succeed, right? So I've been in education, and the kids and the parents are always like, they got to get A's, straight A's. I go, no, I mean, you're missing the whole point. From the adult point of view, the best lessons in life you're ever going to get is your failures. Because once you fail, then you learn how to come back, and you've learned something. You know what Nietzsche said, that which does not kill me helps me grow. Absolutely. The best lessons in life are the ones that when you fail, but you also know how to come back, and you learn something from it. And I think you can apply this in any industry. So if I'm in construction, you explain to me a situation and tell a story where it didn't work so well, but you were able to figure it out and then move it forward and then apply it to other construction projects. So whatever field you're in, those are the best lessons that we all can learn from.
Yeah, I love it. I always tell my kids when I was training my kids and they're in sports, I go, listen, anyone can win. Can you fail and come back tomorrow and play again? That's where the greats are. You can be way up here, but then you can be down here, and you got to get back up there. It's coming back every day. And I think when you share that in story form in the book, that's where the power is. And I think you're exactly right, Mick. My book's full of failures, which means it's full of lessons and learning. I mean, I have more than my share of failures. That's where I learn. Like, I always had that battle with my kids and my wife, like, let them fail.
Yeah.
Let them fail. They need to fail. No, you do not help them.
Right,
it's like,
right.
Like, get up, like, let them, whether they're little babies trying to stand, let them stand up. Let them fall down. It's just part of the process, but same thing as they get older. Let them be late. Nope, I'm not going to wake them up.
Yes.
They have an alarm. They don't get up. They're going to learn when they lose their attendance bonus because they couldn't get out of bed, right? So it's the same principle, but I love when you can combine it with like real lessons applied to like a real trade, a real service, whatever you're doing, when you're able to show like this is what's going to happen throughout the process, right? Like I tell startups, I tell them it's hard for me to work with you because you don't have enough scars. You haven't been beat up enough. You haven't lost any money yet. You haven't done stupid things. Okay. As soon as you do those few things, then you can appreciate my value. Right. So going back to the book, if you have that book, you hold it up and I did all this, people start to appreciate your value, right? Like you've got degrees, you've written books, you help people coach books. Well, you're a guy I want to talk to, right? Because I have to put this together. I just don't know how to put the pieces together.
Sure.
I've got them all spread out on the table, right?
Yeah.
And isn't your job kind of to come in, let me help you put this piece and make it readable?
Yes, and there's a couple of things I'd say, personal side I can really relate to this. So one of the best lessons I ever got, my dad was a real sports guy, God rest his soul, but he was definitely one of those hustlers, all the time hustling. He said he'd play a game, whether the score was 100-1 or 1-100. It really didn't matter. He was just all out all the time. And in Little League, I learned a very valuable lesson, just what you had said. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you win. But that also allowed me as a child to develop that, I'm not going to win every game. I'm not going to get a home run every time.
Right.
And that's just part of life. And you can apply that to your adult life because there was those failures and I kept coming back from them. So as a full-time single father, too, I did the same thing with my daughter. So, sorry, I'm it. This is all you got. You're going to have to be really responsible. So you're going to have to wake up yourself. You're going to have to dress yourself a lot of ways. So even as a smaller child, I was trying to teach her how to be responsible and how to put things together in terms of her own life. Applied to a writer, you're exactly right. You take the pieces and you take all the parts of the puzzle, and what I do is I put them all together. It's like assembly. It's a machine that we're putting together in terms of written form. I can take all the raw material that a person says, I've got all these experiences, I've got all these things in my background, but I don't know how to put it together. Well, I'm the put-together guy. So I'll piece it all together, and I'll say, I'll take that component, I'll take that story and I can put it in such a way to make a compelling narrative for people to read and understand what it is that you do or the idea that you are trying to express.
Yeah, it's so important. I can't, being a guy who wrote my book, and I can write, I've written since I was a kid, but I still had an editor who did, and for me, the brilliant editors, so this is probably a little different than what you do, but just from an editing standpoint, they put the comma in the right place, or they add a comma, or they take one word and they move it in the sentence, and it's perfect. And I wrote my book rather quickly, and I'm dealing with the editor, and give her a chapter, write a chapter, give her a chapter. And then when I got done, this is how weird I am, Mick, I printed out all the May with all the corrections. I wanted to see in red, so I'm like, I had probably some trauma from childhood in school because I was so bad in school. But I looked at him like, hey, I did pretty good. There's like one comma on the page. That's all she had to change. And I'm literally going through every page like, okay, but excuse me, the brilliance was she wasn't changing words, she was moving words.
Yes.
Even in my subtitle, I'm like struggling. It's the hardest thing, the title and the subtitle. Two hardest things I did in the whole book for me. Right, I had 27 working titles. Okay, I went with the 28th. Okay, well, I come with another one. And then the subtitle, I'm messing. I got the idea. If she goes, well, just take that out and say this. And I went, oh, that's brilliant. So it's like she just looked at it once and fixed it. So the whole point being you want assistance. Don't try to do this on your own, right? Because, man, does that add a lot of time, and it may not come out the way you want it.
Sure, and what happens is the person who is looking at it, the editor, here's the thing, I review quite a few books as well, too, and it's very insightful in terms of both editing and reviewing a book. The bad reviewer and the bad editor tries to change what it is you're trying to say, and you never want to do that because I look at it like, well, it's not my book. It's not my book that I wrote. It's what the writer wants to write. So the job of the editor or the reviewer is to take the raw material and then just strengthen what they are trying to say. And that's where the coach comes in. And, you've played sports like I've played sports. The coach is on the side and saying, oh, yeah, I see things that you in the midst of playing can't see because it's happening too fast and you're thinking about other things, but the coach is the person on the side who can guide you and to point out things to you. And that's what the good and effective editor does. It's not trying to change your ideas, but to strengthen them, to have the transitions in the right place, to have the words in the right place and use the right words. Like Mark Twain said, the importance of words is the difference between saying lightning and lightning bug. Sure, there's it vastly changes the meaning of it. So sometimes this is what the editor does. Oh, this is what you're trying to say. I can just improve what you're trying to say. Take the raw material, make it better.
Yeah, it's maintaining the voice of the author.
Yes.
Right? That's what it is, because I've seen ghostwriters, hybrid ghostwriters. I've seen a lot of that stuff, and some are excellent. And they can learn that. AI now tries to learn your voice.
Yes.
Right, and mimic how you write and everything else. And some of them just can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Some are they're mechanical editors. Okay, you're for grammar and punctuation, and that's all. But you can't capture my voice. So that may won't do a disservice because you're going to have good grammar and good punctuation. But you really need someone who understands your voice.
Yeah.
Again, with my editor, it was that she really understood the voice that was coming across, and she helped maintain that just like you do. I think it's a critical aspect, because I think, and tell me if I'm wrong here, Mick, I think that's one of the fears when people are going to write a book.
Right.
Do you think they have some apprehension because they're not going to be who they are, or maybe on the flip side, they feel like they're not worthy to be that person? And how do they speak to that with authority?
That's pretty common. And it's, again, I go back to reflection on my own experience, right? So when I was writing my dissertation, I go, first of all, I was offended, right? So I had my doctoral committee and they'd make comments. I go, what? I mean, it was obvious. It was clear. What are you stupid? You go, no. I mean, what they were trying to do, and by hindsight and growth, I understood they were trying to improve what I was attempting to state. And they just had a better way to express it. So as I learned, too, to be more effective as a writer, I also can turn that around for other people too, because the voice is really clear. And I'll give you an example. When I was teaching students all the time, I would talk to the student and try to improve their writing, and I would say to them things like, "You were really bored when you were writing this." And they go, "Well, yeah, how did you know that?" And I go, "Well, because I can read it in the tone of your voice here. You're bored." Excuse me, and I'm picking up on it. So the tone is really important, and what you can do is you can improve the writing by saying, look, you have something to say. You're very unique. Like, so here's my philosophy of life. Everyone is a unique person. No one has ever been like you before. No one's ever going to be like you after. But if you have something to say, well, then make sure it's dynamic, it's clear, and it's really who and what you are. And sure, there's the person who says, well, I don't really think I'm worthy. I'm not a writer. I don't really know how to express myself. Sure. That's the syndrome that some people go through. They don't think that they have something valuable to say. But ordinarily, if you saw the uniqueness of who and what you are, yeah, you are, because there's nobody like you. So express it and get it out in the form of a book. Show what your expertise is.
Yeah, it's so important to understand. I think people need that encouragement. And I think that's why only 2% write a book.
Yeah.
All those things we talked about. And it is hard to start staring at a blank page and putting the whole beginning down. I started with an outline, a little ebook, and then I did an outline and kind of just worked my way through it, then started and stood at my kitchen counter for 3 weeks and wrote a book. Just banging away for 10 hours a day, sent my wife and kids away for a while. I'm going to be focused. I'm going to work on this, so because I had it in me. I knew the story was in me. Yeah. After 30 years of doing stuff, you're like, well, let's just put this on paper. And I think it was such a good experience for me. I'm sure people have had the bad experiences in writing too, but way back in the day, right? Like to be a published author was like a near impossibility.
Yeah.
Like I remember as a kid, I'm like, I want to write a book. I'm going to write stuff. I was writing little plays and like third grade, I'm writing stuff, and I'm doing all this stuff and there it sits on, the paper if I don't act it out, which I did. But I'm like, you got to submit it to this thing and maybe they'll publish, maybe you'll get it was near impossible. You're like, if you were published, you were like a god.
Yes.
It was this thing like, just that I wrote a full-length screenplay. I did a movie. I'm making all this stuff, but I'm nobody. I'm just a kid who's making all this stuff, right? So today, there's self-publishing. There's so many different avenues. The help, the coaching, what you do, Mick, no such thing. 30, 40 years ago, no way, right? You were not, if you were elite, you might have someone who could help you, right? But no one's really going to coach you. Maybe you're in school and you get someone in a literary class or whatever it's going to be, or you're writing, creative writing. But now the accessibility to a coach like you who can come in, take those pieces, put them together, get that done, you sign off, and boom, it's printed. And again, you're holding up your book with your name on it. Like, there's no better time to be alive when it comes to writing, I think. How about you?
Well, yeah, I agree. Couldn't agree with you more, and say, here's the personal experience. So I did something along the same lines that you did. Didn't know what I was going to do. Like I said, I didn't think it was college material. No one noticed it, but I was writing when I was younger. I'd take just blank journals and just start writing because I had this passion for writing. But I also realized that at some point you got to get it out there. And I can give you an example in my post-academic career. First book I published was my novel. So I wrote it years and years ago. And I did the same thing. I sat on it for about 20 years before I published my novel. And it was the same scenario. Really hard to get a hold of a publisher, hard to get an agent, too difficult. And I had a good story that I thought was worthwhile. And my best friend experienced almost exactly the same thing that I did. And I said, well, what is this manuscript just sitting around here for? It's like, this is a story that clearly is happening to people. It needs to be told. So that's really how I came out with my first post-academic work, which was a novel. But the idea of publishing now is so different because of the accessibility. There's no better time to get ideas out. And that's something that I do as a book coach. What's your strategy here? Do you want to find an agent? Do you want a traditional publisher? Do you want a hybrid publisher? Do you want to self-publish? So I work through with the potential client to figure out what's their strategy. What are they trying to accomplish? And when you do that, then you have a goal, and then we can say, okay, let's set a goal for this work, and we'll find an outlet for it, because you're right. There's no better time to be trying to publish than right now.
Yeah, I love that. It's so it's so good. Like even in business, we talk about it in business too. There's no better time to be in business.
Yep.
The lower barriers to entry now. They've never been lower ever. Yeah, I tell people, and the book thing, same thing. Is I did it. Let's make it having a purpose for it. Like with you, you're really able to map out a strategy, right? I don't know if I had the full strategy. Kind of had, let's do this, let's build it. Then I'm going to build an academy around it. I had these ideas. I'll take this and I'll build an academy around it and all that kind of stuff. But when you really have that purpose to get that first thing out there, it's pretty amazing. The first time I was introduced to it, Mick, was I'm trying to think, maybe it was 20 years ago now. I hate saying that, but it was like 20 years ago. And I got this custom water feature business, right? And sculptures, and I'm amazing. I'm all this stuff. And I'm like, well, someone approached me and said, actually it was my photographer who did all my professional shots. I said, well, I'm going to do a coffee table edition. Because another landscape company, we're talking about landscaping, says, here's what they do. They make this big coffee table edition. Mm-hmm. And it's pictures and stories about clients, and they give it to every prospective client. You want power? Go to a high-end client and hand them a coffee table edition of your work. Okay, and say, this is for you, a gift. They're going, how can they not hire you?
Yeah.
It's like, wow, I could be in the book, right?
Right.
They're thinking, man, I wonder if my project will be in the book someday, right? But what a calling card. I do it now with my book for seminars. If I'm going to go, I want to do a seminar at, say, a supplier. I walk in, my business card is my book.
Yes.
Here, I wrote this book called Escape the Owner Prison. The contract's a new way to scale, regaining control, and fast-track growth. And they're going, oh, immediate resonates. I'm a bestseller on it. I've got, here's what I want to do. And I said, that could cost anything, I'll do it. And it's like, done deal. Okay, I've got, that's creds.
Yes.
Right? I got all this time in business. I got the best-selling book. It's so powerful. But there's a lot of different ways to do these books. Like I said, the coffee table edition. Cool little story, big, beautiful pictures, cool stories. People can flip through and read. And but even if they don't, that gift, that's a deal closer. Right from the get-go. They know who they're talking to. Their expectations go way up.
Sure.
And you're able to command the presence, right? And really give that great presentation. So there's so many facets to the power of being published, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you say a business card, so think of the old days, I just hand you a card. Like, what does that mean, right? As I see a name and a card, and that's it. Mm-hmm. But the book is the calling card. Now, instead of just having a little card, I've actually got everything that you do. So I can understand much better. That it takes away, like the expression says that nobody likes to be sold, everybody likes to buy. It's really true. I don't buy a whole lot, but I know there's a real thrill when you buy something. You don't want to be sold, but you want to buy. Mm-hmm. And that's the key. What you're doing is you're not salesy, but the book itself is I want that. That's the buying power and the power of credibility and the authority that a book provides for you. I don't have to tell you a whole lot. A person can see it. And there it is with the pictures and the text, which builds all of your credibility and authority in one hand because you just handed it to them. Yeah, absolutely. That makes all the difference in the world. I don't have to sell you now. Now I can see it for myself.
Right. Yeah, I'm telling you, I do it, and the look, and they kind of look at you, and it's just, they're now open. Because one guy just gave him a gift.
Yeah.
It's a $25 book.
Mm-hmm.
On Amazon. I just handed you a $25 book. Oh. And I have a card, and I stick it in there as a page holder, I just stick it. There's a card, too, if you need that information, but everything's in the book. So I that's one of the big encouragements I want to make here is that understand that your book is a tool. Yeah. I think that's a big takeaway for us here, and we need to use it that way. It's not just, it's my story. No, you use it. You can get ROI on your book, like big ROI.
Yes.
Like, really big. Like if you close a deal because you gave them that book and it's a $50,000 deal, it's a $100,000 deal, and you may never hear it, but that book was a key element to closing that deal. I think that's worth the investment of a coach, the printing, everything that it takes to do it for that kind of, because it's like evergreen.
Yes.
Like
Yep.
you can use that, you're going to get some mileage out of that book, you know,
Sure.
and you might find yourself wanting to do a second one in a couple of years, right?
Sure, absolutely. And that's why it's great ROI, because like you say, you close a $50,000 deal, well, then you've obviously paid whatever it took to put the book in the first place. But it's evergreen, so that means like a 50,000, a 30,000, 75,000 deal, whatever those might be. So you're making exponential amount on this, just this one object, this one thing. And to point out that it's a tool, absolutely. Books don't fly off the shelf, and so it's not even necessarily the sales, even though sales are important. But the thing is, that's a calling card, and you can also get speaker fees. A lot of people have taken the book and then become a speaker. So there are the ways of being exponentially growth and ROI from your initial investment. And since it's evergreen, books don't go anywhere. You know, there always can be reprinted, especially in the digital age, hence the term, the doctor of digital. Everything is digital now. So it's easy to reproduce now, much more difficult in the old days.
Yeah, I think I will tell you, you're going to make the least amount of money selling your book.
Yep.
Okay, that's going to be that's going to be your lowest form of ROI. Everything else we just talked about, that's where you're going to kill it, right? I did mine. I did an audio version of mine as well. So I read it, produced that. I can give that away. Yeah. So I'm on a podcast. I'll say, if you want the free audio version of Escape to Owner Prison, just send me an email. Say, hey, I saw you on so-and-so show. I'd love the free copy. I give it to them. Now, because you have that too. Now they hear me reading it, and I go through the whole book. A lot of guys have windshield time. I can put that on. It's a great part two, right? Build a book. The book is the physical, but a lot of people listen a lot. Sure. It's just another avenue to get what you're doing and increase your authority. So I really encourage that as well. And there's so much power to this. I don't even know if we've emphasized it enough. I think that the power in having a book, your story, your profession, all your stuff to really build you as an authority. And I think you hit it well, Mick. Speaking, if that's something you want to do, you know, but people taking notice. They hit your website and there's your best-selling book. And here's what we do. And this, I wrote the book on it. Not only do I do this, I wrote the book on it.
Yes, the book.
So that the book, right? So there's so much power to it. I want people as they listen here to kind of drop the inhibition and go, listen, I can do this. You're right. I've been doing this for 20 some years. I'm super talented at what I do. I've got a really cool story. You know, and people want to hear about that. They want to just hear we call it features and benefits. They don't want the features. They want the benefits, right?
Yes.
Like we don't want, I get the furnace is going to be hot, but what's it really going to do for me? What's it going to do for my life, right? That's what they're going to read that. They want to know your story.
Yeah.
You know, every sale is relational, and a book helps create relationships. Yeah. It really does. So there's just, man, we could probably go another half hour talking about just the stuff of this, but it's so good. Well, any final thoughts on the actual process, getting into it, benefits I've missed, anything you want to touch on here real quick?
Well, I think one of the things that you hit on is really important, because the people who should be writing books don't think of themselves as a writer of books, right? So, I mean, that's the first thing. That's why you hire the coach. The coach can take everything and structure it in such a way and put the stories together in such a way. I mean, you mentioned the audio version, absolutely. So if a person doesn't have the great voice, it's like, well, I'm a voice talent too. So I've done audio books as well for the same reason that, yes, you want to be multi-channel. There is the digital age, multi-channel. Let people listen. Let people hear. Let people read. Let people hear you speaking and engagement. So it's the person who says, yeah, I've got an idea, but I don't know how. That's the statistic that you say. 85% of the people said, yes, I'd like to write a book. I have an idea. And that's low number, only like 2%. I'm that person in the gap. I can take what they have, what they know, which I don't know, and I'm always like, I'm a learner. I'm an academic. I'd love to learn. So I'm learning a lot, and I really will enjoy working with people because I'm learning a lot, and I'm helping them in their business and growing.
Yeah, that's great. And there is, I took my book, and I would highlight certain sections, right? And I'd take a picture, me and my book and the highlighted thing, and post that on social media.
Sure.
I would do it on my podcast. I would talk about that section. Here's another section. So it gives me material, right? So it's endless. It's endless the possibilities you can use building that authority on top of that book. So I just want to encourage everyone to reach out to you. So we're going to get your contact information, everything else, but understand, like, maybe get in the conversation with you. What does this look like, right? I want them to contact you, get into this, and like finally get what you do, get that expertise, get that story down on paper, if you will, in the book form, and make that work. So how can they get a hold of you, Mick?
Yeah, it's pretty easy. So I say I'm online, so it's easy to find me. If you can't find me, then you must not be able to do anything. But Facebook group I have, it's a private Facebook group, but join me there. It's the Idea to Author Coach on Facebook. It's an easy, handy way to get in touch with me. I have a group. I got a community. Got a lot of free content that people can benefit from. And also reach out to me directly. I'm always available at thedoctorofdigital@pm.me. So thedoctordigital@pm.me. You can approach me directly. It's always worth a conversation. And if it goes nowhere, that's fine. If I can help you out and send you to somebody else, that's fine too. But it's always worth a conversation. Love to talk to people. Love to learn. And that's why I like to work with those potential authors. Get your message out there. Don't hide your light under a bushel. Get it out there. Let people know who and what you are.
And that's awesome. And I'm just going to second all that. Like, do it. Just do it. Do it now. Like, make the move and get the process started. It's not going to take you forever. When you've got someone like Mick working with you, this is going to go fast. You're going to get it done. And when you get to the other side, it'll be one of the best things you've done to date. I guarantee you, it'll be like you'll walk around with that thing just holding it all the time. Like for 2 weeks, like a newborn baby.
Yes.
It's going to be like, I did this. I made this. It's really cool. So I just want to encourage them to take action, because that's what we're about, man. Take that action. So awesome. I will have all that information in the show notes for everybody. Mick, it's been so great having you on here, man. You shared some real gold with us. And, man, we'll probably do this again. Yeah, I really like it. I like the writing thing. It's kind of cool, but I think there's more we can hit on. Maybe we'll go another level and talk about more inside stuff. It could be good. What do you think?
Thank you for the opportunity, Richard. Yes, this has been an honor, and I really appreciate being able to have some fun time with you and get to know you better and see you again. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
You bet, Mick. All right, guys, keep getting things done out there, and tune in next time for Sharpen the Spear podcast. And don't forget, revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family. So if you want to see how I can show you at least $100,000 in hidden annual profits in less than 3 minutes, and not only show you where, but how to create that $100K in 6 months or less without additional advertising or marketing spend, guaranteed, just go to sharpenthespearcoaching.com. See how truly simple it is. That's sharpenthespearcoaching.com. Do it now.